what to do next. It's time to reset with Jess. Hey.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You've been working, you've been moving, you've been pressing and pushing, and you are wondering what's next. Guess what? It's time to reset with Jess. Today, I want to talk about toxic people, toxic relationships. And the question I have you ever been involved with somebody in a relationship of any kind, whether it's a coworker, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, or a friendship relationship, where that somebody just leaves a bad feeling just all over you after you've interacted with them? And if you have, or if you have not, the question I really have and want to pose to you today is, are you that somebody? Are you that somebody that exhibits that toxic environment that makes people feel unworthy or unwell after they have interacted with you? And maybe they haven't told you in those words that you're toxic or your behavior is toxic. And perhaps it appears that people seem to agree with you more often than not. But does agreeing mean that you're not toxic? Let's dig into this today on Reset with Jess. What I want us to do is to challenge our mindsets, to challenge ourselves, looking at that person in the mirror, pulling back the layers of who we are, who we assume we have become based on many different aspects of life, pulling back those layers and getting to the root, getting to the core. I like to call it mining for the gem within, resetting our thought process to make improvements in our lives. So sometimes these topics aren't for the faint at heart. Sometimes these things that we talk about may wound us a little bit and make us feel just a little bit like we've been poked or hit. And as I have heard many a person say, if you can't say amen, say ouch. If it hurts, you might be that somebody. Let's talk about the definition of the word toxic. And this is not too deep. It comes from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Toxic means containing or being poisonous, a material that is especially capable of causing death or serious debilitation. Toxic is also exhibiting symptoms of infection. And then the third entry here says extremely harsh, malicious, or harmful. And the example is toxic sarcasm. Some adjectives, some synonyms are envenomed, poison, poisonous, venomous. When we look at the word venomous, producing a venom in a specialized gland capable of inflicting injury or death. Spiteful, malevolent, venomous criticism. And then let's look at the definition of spiteful. Filled with or showing spite, malicious. So those definitions don't actually indicate, these are traits of people. It goes back to the definition of substances and things that can be used to cause death, poison. But can your behavior be poison? Can it have the same impact that a substance could have on someone else's demeanor, on the way they see themselves, on the way they interact with you, on the way they feel about themselves and the relationship that they have with you, with others, and how they interact with the world around them? Absolutely. So it really is to say that a person may be exhibiting behavior that is harmful to someone else. These days, the phrase gaslighting is trending, and we've learned a lot, even though it's an older term that's come back into light in more recent times. Gaslighting really is a toxic behavior where someone who is inflicting harm on somebody else kind of flips the script and makes you feel like you are actually doing to them what they are doing to you, or that you are the cause of their behavior that harms you. So let's dig into this. I went to a website called A Conscious Rethink, and I want to give credit to Steve Phillips Waller. He is out of England, where he lives with his wife and daughter, and his website is Conscious Rethink, and it was started in 2015. And I this caught my eye because we have a similar kind of reason for what we do. And his was to help others overcome obstacles that are holding them back in life. So a conscious rethink. This guy wrote an article, and the question is, am I toxic? And it really breaks down. It gives you 17 signs that you are a toxic person. And we're not going to go through all of them, just going to pinpoint a few. Number one, people feel worse about themselves after having spent time with you. And it's not always easy to identify because people don't always tell you that you made them feel bad, or you made them feel upset, or you made them feel depressed. You made them feel unworthy. You made them feel like their boundaries were insignificant. A lot of times people don't come and say to us, hey, that hurt. Your words are harmful, and I don't like how I feel after I talk to you, because they love us, right? Or they enjoy some aspect of the relationship with us. So they're not always forthcoming about the reality of the residue that is left with them after they interact with us. So unless you're being told, you may not realize that you are having a toxic impact on other people. So these behaviors, and I want to make sure that I clear up, and I may have said it earlier, are you that somebody who is toxic? Let me restate that. It's not that you yourself are a toxic person. It's that your behavior is harmful. Your behavior is toxic to others. So if you are seeing that people's body language it becomes more closed off and negative, the interaction with you may be leaving them feeling bad, unloved, unappreciated, or unworthy. So that's a self-check for us to ask ourselves, is my behavior toxic? Here's another way to know if your behavior is toxic. Number 2, people avoid you or disappear out of your life for good. So if you're noticing that a lot of your calls, specifically with certain people, are going unanswered, your text messages aren't being responded to, do they seem to leave or try to avoid being involved with you in social events? Do they find ways to cut short the conversations with you? Look at this. When people enjoy being around you, they find any excuse, any reason to spend time with you. If the opposite is true, then you may need to examine whether your behavior, your words, your body language, your responses are causing them to feel some form of harm. So ask yourself, is this happening? Are people avoiding you? Do they avoid coming into contact with you? Do people make excuses for why they can't spend time with you? Number 3, you are highly critical and think you are superior to others. Now, do you find it difficult to accept people as they are? Or do you tend to regularly criticize people for what you see as their faults? Ask yourself, am I using shame as a weapon to make people feel bad and make myself feel better? If so, and if you find that you are insisting that people should have done something another way constantly, if you're belittling people's choices and you're making fun of their accomplishments and you inadvertently, really, you're trying to make them believe that you're the better person or you have more wisdom, it exhibits that you believe that you're superior to them. And you may say, well, I don't think I'm superior, but your thoughts are one thing, your actions are another. I've heard it said that people don't know or remember your intent, but they will always remember your impact on them. So if your impact makes people feel inferior, then whatever your intent is doesn't really matter. Number 4, you are controlling or emotionally manipulative. Okay, do you boss people around and do you use emotional blackmail to ensure you get your own way? You're blunt and rude to the point where it shocks other people. Do you ignore people's boundaries and then decide, well, if you don't do what I want you to do or you don't say what I want you to say, then I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to shut down this conversation. And you withhold their nurturing and emotional needs until you get your own way. If you can identify that you have done that, you may be exhibiting and practicing toxic behavior. Number 5, you never apologize or admit wrongdoing. And even though he uses the word never, I'm going to, kind of edit that a bit because that's an all-encompassing word and we can find wiggle room in there. So you rarely apologize or admit wrongdoing. Sorry, I apologize. Those words don't really come easily to your lips because, after all, as he says in this article, you know best. Even when everyone else says, it's you defend your position and you refuse to apologize, or you're very, very slow at issuing an apology. And when you do, it's not really heartfelt. It's more a last resort. Okay, number 6, then you're blaming others for everything because, if you don't do anything wrong and nothing you need to apologize for, then it's not you. It must be them and everybody's against you. If that is the case, and you're blaming other people, it probably also is true that you don't take criticism very well. You don't take correction very well. And the problem there is that if you're not taking criticism, if you're not taking correction, then you're stunting your own growth as well as you're stunting the growth of your relationships. So in that belief system that everyone else is wrong and everyone else needs to change, and if they would just see it from your point of view, then you may be exhibiting some toxic behavior. So going on with this, the next one is you humiliate people to gain favor in the crowd. Do you make fun of people and then laugh so that other people will like you more than they like them? And this can happen in friendships where you feel like you're constantly, a person can feel like they're constantly the butt of the joke of their best, closest friends who know the most intimate things about them. And then you get into a specific crowd and that thing becomes a joke for others. It's like, oh yeah, remember that time when you, and it's some humiliating thing that you laugh off in the moment and you don't speak up about it because that's your friend, that's your homie. And so you don't want to, now, they're getting the light and the laughs and you don't want to seem too sensitive. So you shrink back from saying anything or standing up for yourself. And guess what happens? That toxic behavior continues. So if you're the person who is humiliating those that you care about and to gain favor in a crowd, then you are exhibiting toxic behavior. And more likely than not, that person who is on the receiving end of the butt of your joke is starting to distance themselves from you, and you may see that they have started to not want to go to certain places with you. Check it out. Do some auditing of yourself there. The last two I'm going to look at is you make things personal. So when there's a disagreement, you can't take that, again, criticism or correction or alternative suggestions. You make it about you. And this causes people to bring up the past of other people, taking aim at their character, ridiculing the way they look, speak, and all of these other things. And this goes back to gaslighting. You blame them for making them behave the way you did. Okay, so the last one that I want to point out is you don't celebrate the success of others. So when things are going right for other people, when they're achieving or succeeding at something, do you celebrate them? Do you celebrate with them? Do you congratulate them, or do you downplay it or cause some other distraction so that you become the center of the event and you remove any positive feelings they may be having about themselves or about the event? So these are really, really harmful, threatening behaviors that not only drive a wedge in your relationships, but they impact other people. Going back to the definition of toxic, it's poisonous, it kills, it destroys, even to the point of death. Are you killing people slowly, softly, that trust you as their friend, as their confidant, as their mentor, as their authority figure? Are you killing their compassion? Are you killing their self-esteem? Are you poisoning the reflection that they see in the mirror because they hear your words echoing? And if you are someone who is trusted with their emotions and with their livelihood, and they're looking to you because they see you as the biggest reflection of who they really are, and you're giving them tarnished copper for the gold. You're giving them ashes for their beauty. Are you that somebody? And if you are, after you've listened to this, and really go deep into yourself and think about relationships that are ended or relationships that have had to be mended. Do you see a trend? Do you see a pattern? Be real with yourself. Let's go there, because I can identify in my life times where I absolutely exhibited toxic behavior. Somebody wants to leave and go do something else, and I would lay a guilt trip, as to why they should be there with me, and even to the extent of tearing down the other person or other activity that they wanted to go engage in. I've done that before. I had to learn that had far-reaching consequences, because now that person who has trusted me, who has some sort of thought process that I'm a good person, I'm somebody that you should trust to bounce things off of. And if I said that, now they're double thinking about what they believe. They're thinking twice about the choices that they're making. And I'm just over here trying to get my way. So in trying to get our way and trying to have a leg up in some situations, sometimes we do exhibit toxic behavior. And that's a part of being imperfect, right? When you see those things, when you look back at your relationships, can you say and be honest with yourself that that's me? I do that. I've done that. And can you say that, I have people that I know and I'm close with who lose friends like some of us lose our car keys. And it's always, they didn't support me, or it's always they made me feel a certain way. But it's multiple people that have left these particular people. So it's multiple friendships that have ended, but I never hear those people say, I know I was the issue. Oh, they didn't want to hear my truth. Well, did you want to hear their truth? Did you offer a listening ear? Were you equitable in sharing the floor or sharing the stage? Did you turn their pain around and make it about you? And sometimes we do that thinking that we are sharing and we are demonstrating empathy by saying, I've been there and this is my experience. And that has its place. However, when someone comes to you, is it always about you? And we can slip into that before we know it. And no one, is going to say, I don't really like talking to you because every time I come to you with my issue, we end up talking about you. So they just stop telling you and they just stop talking to you. And I still have to be very conscious. And I tell people, hey, let me call you back and tell you I apologize because you came to me talking about you. And in my effort to show you that I understood, I made it all about me. I started telling you, 15 years of history. And I was really just trying to give you some examples. But I realized that I buried you in that and I made it about me. And so go back to those people and say, I'm working on that. I'm working on that. Call me out on that. Say, you're doing it again. Hey, time out. Let's get back to me, because sometimes we don't know what we're doing and how what we're doing is impacting other people. So the quickest way to cut off the venom of toxic behavior is an apology, is a self-check, is a how did that make you feel? How did what I say impact you? Or just going back and saying, I thought about our conversation and I realized you jumped off the phone with me really quickly and I was trying to figure out why. And it dawned on me that I wasn't being very supportive. Those are ways to overcome the impact of toxic behavior. Now, another thing to consider is why you do what you do in the first place. Typically, and many of us have heard the term, hurt people hurt people. So people who have experienced toxic behavior demonstrate toxic behavior. So if you grew up in a household or have been in a long-term relationship where people belittled one another or belittled you, when you are in your relationships, you begin to belittle others. Whether you know it consciously, whether you do it intentionally or not, go back. Look at the text messages that you send. Look at your responses to people. Play these conversations back over in your mind. Look at your Facebook posts. Look at the memes that you choose. Are they belittling? Do they pull out the sins and imperfections of other people and never are these things pointed inward? So that may be something that was done to you. That may be, throwing shade, for instance. How many times have you known or felt like somebody was talking about you, but they wouldn't talk to you, but you figured it out from around the way and now or you feel, as we say now, a certain kind of way, and you're like, well, if there's an issue, why don't you come and tell me? Then you find yourself exhibiting the same behavior. Oh, if they want to be petty and throw shade, then I'm going to be petty and throw shade. I will find a meme that rivals their meme. And now I'm talking about them, around them, but not to them. And that too is toxic. So the whole phrase, you are what you eat, is you become what you consume. And if you consume toxic behavior, you will start to exhibit toxic behavior. It's like a cold. It's contagious. It is truly contagious. So another thing is it's time out for going along just to get along. If someone is exhibiting toxic behavior toward you, you now have the duty and the permission to let them know. That did not feel good. That harmed me. That hurt me. That made me feel bad. It made me feel unworthy, unsupported, uncelebrated. I came to you with an issue that was made fun of. I came to you with an issue that then became all about you. I came to you for support and you judged me. This is how that made me feel. And let's start normalizing clear communication. Let's normalize expressing and not hiding how we feel. Let's normalize cutting it off at the quick, cutting it off at the access point, cutting it off where it starts, amputating the toxic limb. Let's start letting people know. Otherwise, what we're doing is feeding a monster that's getting bigger and bigger. You're walking around on eggshells, tiptoeing like you're on fragile ice, avoiding them, avoiding saying anything to them that they can respond negatively to. And all the while, they're getting stronger, more toxic, more venomous, more manipulative, and more alone. They're losing friends left and right, and the relationships they have are surface level. It harms a person when we aren't honest with them. It harms them and allows them to continue, one, to harm others and to harm themselves. I'm going to reset in my relationships. I'm going to reset my mindset. It's my duty. It's my privilege. It's my honor to help you be the best you that you can be, especially when it concerns how you treat me. And it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes to tell people that hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable to say that joke that you told at the party or at the gathering or at the family dinner table. It wasn't funny to me. It made me feel embarrassed. I don't want thick skin. My skin is fine. I don't want to be made fun of by people I trust. When we normalize accepting people's expressions of their own emotions, there's so many things that can be corrected before they're erected. Anger builds up where emotion is suppressed. Anger can be hidden, masked, and it comes out in so many different ways. And the majority of those ways are not positive. And someone may feel oppressed by something you've said or done, and they can't tell you because they don't want to risk the relationship, or they don't want to risk going toe-to-toe with you in a verbal battle, or having the shade on the internet or whatever it is, having their name smeared, because how dare they challenge you about how you made them feel. So instead of doing that, they suck it up, internalize it, thinking, oh yeah, I got some thick skin, but then they take it out on somebody else who may be a little smaller, who may be a little more vulnerable. And now your toxicity is being spread. So I challenge you today to reset your mindset. Dig deep. Am I that somebody who's exhibiting toxic behavior, who's being toxic to others? Am I that somebody who needs to speak up to the person who is exhibiting that behavior? Am I the bystander who recognizes the toxic behavior and I need to not be a part of it? Am I the person at the party who's laughing at the joke, but seeing the pain in the other person's face and knowing this isn't right, but I'm not saying anything? So today I want to challenge you to put a time out on toxic. Old school, what the world needs now is love. Oh, love is the thing we need more of. Love, love, love can cover a multitude of pain, a multitude of hurt, a multitude of sins. But just because love covers, it doesn't give you the right to continue to hurt someone. It doesn't give you the right to pretend that someone didn't hurt you. So today, as I sign off, the time out for toxic, let's get more love out there. Challenge your mindset about where you're at. I want you to go forth and be your best. Thank you for tuning in to Reset with Jess.